V-Gates, how goes it? I'm Chris Presnell, and this is the Mix Repair Guy channel. This video is about room selection and gear layout. Commercial studio designers have discovered some rules that you should know about. Let's get into it. If you're starting from scratch, the first choice is which room should you use? Is it big enough? Is it quiet enough for recording? Will you be disturbing anyone else? A garage can be a good size, but road noise and annoying your neighbors can be a problem. Is the room a simple shape? Can you deal with the location of doors, windows, and other objects that can't be moved? In most cases, we only have one room available, so that makes the choice easy. Here's why the shape of the room is so important for acoustics. When surfaces on opposite sides of a room are parallel, that causes boosts of certain frequencies. These boosts are called room modes, and are bad for listening since certain places in your room will have a buildup of specific frequencies, which skews your mix decisions in a bad way. When walls are non-parallel, that helps. Not just opposite walls, but consider that an angled ceiling is non-parallel to the floor, which also helps. When you do have a choice, avoid rooms that are perfectly square, or worse yet, a perfect cube. For example, a 10 by 10 room with 10-foot ceilings is the worst case. Since the distance between opposite surfaces is the same in all three dimensions, any buildup of frequencies between two walls will be more severe because you've got three dimensions causing the same frequencies to be boosted. A good room shape is a rectangle, and there are certain ratios of length to width to height that are better for acoustics. If you have a choice of rooms, calculate the ratio of its dimensions and see which one comes closest to the recommended ratios. These ratios break up axial room modes, which we'll cover in another video. One of my favorite websites with information on room modes is realtraps.com. Check their acoustics info page and links for some great information. They also have a free room mode calculator program for Windows, which you can download and install. You enter your room dimensions, and it'll show you the frequency of the room modes you have. To talk about room setup, we're going to make a few assumptions. First, that you have a decent chair and desk or table of some sort. Next, that you'll be using a stereo pair of monitor speakers. I recommend using floor-standing studio monitor speaker stands so you can easily position and aim them at the right height. Stands will also decouple your speakers from your desk, so it won't ring or rattle as much. Even without stands, the positioning rules still apply. Let's start talking about where to sit and which direction to face. When in a rectangular room, you always want to face one of the smaller walls so that the sound will travel the greatest distance until it hits the back wall. The greater the distance, the lower the frequency of the room modes, which we'll cover in another video on acoustic treatment. Be sure your chair is centered between the left and right wall. If you have a choice of which direction to face, try to face a more solid wall. In other words, fewer windows or doors or anything that breaks up the continuity of the wall. Position your chair so your listening position is 38% of the way off the front wall. That's a magical percentage that top studios use, and is the first thing you should locate in your room. Your speakers should be positioned the same distance off the left and right walls, so your chair will be centered between them. You need to make an equilateral triangle, either at or just behind your head. Aim the speaker to a spot 1 to 2 feet behind your head, not directly at your ears, and not directly at your back wall. Refer to the owner's manual of your speaker to determine the best height to raise them. In the case of the Atom Audio A7X speakers, it's recommended to position the tweeters at ear level. Some speakers recommend raising them so the woofer and tweeter are centered over your ear. Best to follow the manual, but don't be afraid to test other heights. Make sure your speakers aren't too close to the front wall. You might have to use a smaller equilateral triangle for positioning, so your speakers can be further away from the front wall. It depends on whether your speakers have rear-facing ports or not. The speakers I use are front-ported, so I can put them pretty close to the wall. Play around with the size of the triangle for speaker positioning, because it can greatly change the frequency response of your room, especially in the low end. Get it wrong and your mixes won't translate as well to other listeners. That's the ultimate goal with a home studio, to make a mix that will sound good everywhere, not just in your room. The last issue I want to mention is gear location. Put gear in the wrong place and it can cause electrical or magnetic interference. Devices can cause issues with other devices when they're placed too close to each other. Gear with power transformers can cause AC hum, which can be picked up by adjacent devices. When planning the layout of your gear, be flexible in case you discover two devices that don't like to be close to each other. I say this from experience. I had a headphone amplifier that was inducing AC hum into mic preamps right beneath it. Solution was to move the headphone amp lower in the rack, which put the gear out of range of the interference. Also in my room, every single coil guitar I have picks up hum unless I turn facing the guitars in a specific direction when tracking. These are the kinds of issues you won't discover until you've positioned everything, so be prepared to tweak your layout a bit. Heat can be a factor in where you locate gear. If you have a piece of gear that runs hot, make sure you don't put anything right above it or below it. Make sure there's adequate ventilation or you're shorting the life of your gear. Thank you so much for listening, and be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Most of all, try to learn something new every day and have a great time doing it.